Clarkson on the drive, kicks it out for Man. Man, three-pointer, bang! Oh, what a man!
Magic down the middle, just what I thought. A hook shot at 12, good!
Here's Michael at the foul line, a shot on Elo,
Good! The Wolves win it! They win it!
now there's a steal by Bird, underneath the DJ, going up over Bell, fall away, yes! Yes! At the buzzer, he does it! Was there ever a doubt? A Smith screen, Posey will defend.
Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life!
It's a physical game.
Oh, man, oh, my! A monster jam by Blake Griffin!
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another playoff preview for the 2024 NBA playoffs here on Dime Dropper. Before we get started, you know the drill. Follow us on social media, to our Instagram, TikTok at Dime Dropper Pod, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for all things NBA, LA sports, and NBA history. And in this episode, I am very excited for what is clearly the better conference, as it's been my entire life, damn near. And we've got a great series in store. The Minnesota Timberwolves and Dallas Mavericks in the conference finals. And joining me today, I'm very happy to have two female content creators that are passionate about their teams. You might recognize SJ from the one video she featured in, which was literally everything that went wrong with Dallas's 2023 season. 1 year later, we are here back in the conference finals for you, SJ. And then Anna making her Dime Dropper debut, hosts her own podcast on the Wolves, located in Minnesota. And everybody knows that is what Dime Dropper loves, is the local content creators. Anna, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thanks. I'm so just stoked to be here. Fun.
SJ, let's just get it going. I mean, how does it feel after that video? You were on my channel last time. Complete 180. You are back.
Yes, sir. I'm very excited. That's why, that's part of the reason why I don't, hide when things go wrong, because eventually that you will come out on top, or I guess on top for now, because the ultimate goal is obviously a championship. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Did you guys think before the playoffs that you would be here?
Yeah, before the playoffs, I thought there was a very strong shot, given how kind of everything shook out with the matchups. Sorry, hold on. But basically, I just think that that things with the matchups, when they kind of shook out the way they did, I was like, okay, we'll end up in the Western Conference Finals. Probably, I thought the OKC series was gonna go a little longer, but I did have us winning that one, but. Yeah, before the deadline, absolutely not. I didn't see us getting here. But after the deadline, things kind of just made more sense for us.
Yeah, before we get into like the specific stuff of the series, Anna, this is a special occasion for the Timberwolves. And for someone like me who it's very rare that I talk to somebody whose franchise has had less success than the Clippers. It's very rare. Before 2021, we couldn't even say that because the 04 Wolves had done more than we'd ever done. But
yeah,
this is the only year besides that year the Wolves have won a series, and now you're in the conference finals. You win 2 games. That's the furthest the Wolves have ever gone. Like, how does it feel that you're basically saying, not basically, probably the best Timberwolves team of all time, and now that you beat the champs, it's like you might be able to win it this year.
Crazy. I feel like we're all in Wolves world, just like after we beat the Nuggets, I think that we all, especially after kicking off the series, like winning the first 2 games, like big, and then dropping the next 3, we were like, oh my God, this is like giving yikes. But the way that we crushed game 6, we won by 45 points, which is like unheard of, and then to come back from 20 down in game 4, like literally unheard of. It's amazing. I feel like all of us in Wolves world are just like a buzz about the season. For me personally, I was really just hoping that we could win one post-game series, and then maybe next year would kind of be our year, like to just make the big run. But for it to be happening kind of ahead of schedule is very cool. And we're just like so proud of the Wolves. They're just amazing.
Yeah, it's an interesting feeling because you would probably think, okay, we're going to make a little run this year. As you said, hopefully win one series, and then we take that experience. We have Ant that's 22. Next year, we're going to go all the way. But now it's like, you're probably thinking like, oh my God, like, is this going to really happen?
We're going to go all the way this year.
I know. So let's get into the matchup. So the biggest one, obviously, like the most basic one, is the superstars, the faces of the franchise. Obviously, this is the first time for Ant being in a round further than the first round. Luka has that conference finals experience from 2 years ago. You know, SJ, we talk a lot about like the stars and stuff like that in basketball discourse because it's the most individualistic like team sport I can think of. How much of the series do you think will be decided by who's better between Luka or Ant? Like, how much do you think that'll matter? Because sometimes when you have even teams, if you have the best player in the series, you just end up winning.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna matter a whole lot for us. I think it means more to us for Luka to like outplay Ant, than it would mean for the Wolves for Ant to outplay Luka, if that makes sense. Just because I think with the way as the teams are built, and especially defensively, I believe that we're gonna see a drop in production from our role players. Like PJ, highly doubt he's gonna average like 17 again on like ridiculous splits. Same with Derrick Jones Jr. I mean, I would love for it to happen, but just realistically, I think they're gonna come down to earth a bit. And with that, to make up for that production, Luka is gonna he's definitely gonna have to be better than what he's shown in the first 2 rounds. Same for Kyrie. Pretty much, I think both of them they're gonna have to have good series. Like they don't need to average like 30 a piece on like ridiculous splits or anything like that, but they both need to be definitely much more offensively potent than what they've shown in the earlier round.
You know, that's actually a good point. I agree with you. I think you guys need Luka to be the best, but I don't know if they need Ant to be the best. So I'm going to ask Anna that because I don't know. You're both teams. We're going to talk about the benches in a little bit because I think you guys both have some of the best depth in the league. But I think the Wolves roster just has a little more firepower in terms of, I guess, the starting lineup. How do you feel about the same question I asked her?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that we need Ant to be at his best. Like I think that that's the thing that the Wolves have kind of proven this entire season, and fully recognize like that the regular season doesn't necessarily like align all the time with what happens in the post. But I mean, we even saw it in Game 7 against the Nuggets. Like Ant was 6 for 24, which is like atrocious. And we still won against the defending champs. So, I mean, Kat had an incredible game. Rudy played really well. Naz Reid came in and is just like 6th man of the year. Catalyst off the bench is outrageous. NAW actually really didn't play very well for us, and he's kind of like a sleeper hit, I think, that could really be huge. I don't want to get into like the bench. I know we're going to talk about it, but yeah, I completely agree. I think that for the Mavericks, Luka and Kyrie really need to show out, kind of top to bottom. But on the Wolves, I feel like we have just a little bit more. We can give our guys a little bit more grace, maybe. But that said, offense is always, or this whole season, kind of has been a challenge for us. So that's also not lost.
I was going to ask just blunt question. Who do you think's better?
Team wise?
No, like who's better between Ant and Luka, straight up?
Oh, well, Ant.
Okay. You?
Yeah.
No, Luka's better. Luka's definitely better.
Well, see, I would be the unbiased party here, but
what's your thought then?
Yeah, who are you gonna? You're the tiebreaker.
I know who I like more, which is the Ant-Man, but I'm gonna give Luka the edge just because I've seen him in the conference finals before. But let's see how this series goes because my take can very much change. Danny, I'm only reading your comment because it's a super chat and I appreciate the money, but your obsession with my eyebrows is quite strange. But I appreciate it.
You do have really nice eyebrows.
Oh, thank you, SJ. Appreciate that. Okay, so then my next question is, so the second guys, Kyrie and Kat. I'm going to go to SJ first. Kyrie Irving has had an interesting postseason that's like been very debated about based on like how you kind of evaluate performance in basketball. I've really defended him, even though when he was on Brooklyn, I was like, dude, this guy's clearly his number one priority is not to win a championship. He's like constantly missing. He won't get the vaccine, all these different things. And since he's come to Dallas and you guys gave him that, even before the contract, you spoke pretty highly of him last season. But once he got the contract, he has really bought in. I've been so impressed with his professionalism. He's kind of squashed the narrative of what have you done without LeBron? You put him with a guy that's similar to LeBron in the playmaking sense. And he's been that classic number 2 option like we saw in Cleveland that just focused on getting buckets. And he's also been creating a lot of good looks for your guys. like PJ Washington, I almost said Derek White, Derek Jones. Let me ask you this. The whole first half, Kyrie doesn't get aggressive, and then he goes off in the second half. Do you think you have the room for that against this level of defense? Because when you win, it's like, okay, he did enough, and it's fine because he's still playing defense and all that stuff. But when you lose, it's like, man, Kyrie probably should have tried to get going a little earlier. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think I actually saw a tweet earlier today. I apologize, I don't remember who I saw it from, but they pointed out that Kyrie's the most attempts that he's taken in a first half in any game in the season was against the Wolves. That game we won, the final game we played. He was, aggressive from the jump. And we needed that. So I don't think the second half gimmick is gonna work in this series. And I mean, and with OKC, it got even worse than what it was during the season. During the season, he was always kind of slow in the first half, and then in the second half he would pick it up. But in that OKC series, it's like he wasn't even looking at the rim at a certain point. Like it was just I'm Rondo, I'm gonna pass the ball, look for other guys. Like he just really wasn't.
It's almost like he's trying to prove a point.
Yeah, but I just think he was a little frustrated with like how he was getting guarded. And he's the difference between like him and like a Luka, for example. Luka will force the issue. Like it doesn't matter if he's bricking, if he's getting locked up, he's going to keep going at that defender. He's going to keep trying, basically. Kyrie's not like that. If he's getting locked up, he's going to stop shooting. Like he's going to kind of try to find his place in the offense in a different way, as opposed to keep pressing it. So with that being said, if he's getting frustrated, he cannot just accept what's going on. He can't be kind of like a passive being. He's gonna have to force the issue a bit, and I think it might get a little easier for him to do that in this Wolves series, only because the Wolves trust their defense, at least in like one-on-one situations more than OKC, I think. So they're not gonna send as much like doubles to Kyrie as OKC did, at least I think. They're gonna let Ant do his thing. If it's a switch, they're gonna let Jaden do it. They have Nikhil, so they have a ton of guys who they're comfortable with leaving on an island with Kyrie. Versus with OKC, as soon as whether it was Kyrie or Luka had the ball, it was like four guys basically shading him, forcing it out of his hands. So I think he's going to, regardless of how he's getting played defensively, he's going to have to force the issue. He can't wait until the second half, not against this defense, and not with our shot creation issues. Not that we have real issues within the postseason, but we really have two shot creators, right? Especially with Exum not being playable. So he really can't leave that load up to Luka.
It's funny because you're making points that I didn't think of before the show, but now it's like ringing in my head. You're absolutely right about the Wolves defense. They're like, the one thing I noticed about them when we played them this season is they don't overhelp at all. They almost trust their point of attack and Rudy Gobert to guard those two guys that they're playing pick and roll, and they'll stay home on everyone. So you're like not even creating much of an advantage at all. Mm-hmm. I think this team is the best defensive team since at least those grit and grind Grizzlies teams in the early 2010s, but you can maybe even go further back. So as far as the second scoring option for you guys, Anna, Kat, he's had such an interesting journey. Obviously, you can talk about like what he means to like the community and stuff. He's a number 1 overall pick in 2015. And throughout his career, it's kind of been like, at least for me, in Kentucky, he was this awesome post player. And then he came to the NBA and showed how great of a shooter he could be. But then I thought at times, I do agree with Barkley at times when he says that he falls too in love with the three ball. But this postseason, he has really been aggressive against smaller guys. And one thing that Dallas has done in every series is switch 1 through 4. And the Denver Nuggets did it. And you guys abused Murray and Brown when they were guarding Cat. How do you feel about the way he's kind of matured and, what has really led to that, and how you feel about how he can be in this series? Because Game 7, he was probably the player of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually think, and this is something that I feel like folks in the Wolves community have kind of been talking about, but I think specifically in like the Denver Nuggets series, Cat was, and also in the Sun series too, like Cat's big thing was to defend. Like that's kind of what he was out there to do. That was his big task for the game. And I think that mentally that kind of like freed him up to be better on offense. Like he was putting overall just like less pressure on himself to just like make moves, I guess, out there. And like that's really like if Cat starts kind of overthinking, I feel like that's where he starts making some of those really goofy, silly mistakes that you're just kind of like, what's going on? Like just relax a little bit. So I do think that in this series against Dallas, I actually think he's probably going to have an easier matchup defensively. So I think that might be kind of something to watch, like because his whole thing isn't going to be, he might be thinking just a little bit more about how he's going to create his own offense. And yeah, that could be maybe a little bit of a challenge for him. But then on the flip side, I do think on the defensive side of things for the Mavs, I actually think that Cat is also going to have an easier time. So this really could be like a huge Cat series for sure. And I think his confidence right now is probably through the roof.
Yeah, and when you go from guarding Luka to anyone else, it's definitely going to be easier. I mean, inherently. But I was going to ask you, SJ. So I like that Anna mentioned the Sun series because in both series, Cats had like a huge mismatch. First round, it was Kevin Durant, and I loved how aggressive he was. He wasn't backing down from, oh, it's KD, he's a 7-footer, he's got long arms. Nah, I'm too big. He's too light in the ass. We're going to go to the basket. This past series, same thing with I think it was just mainly attacking mismatches because they had Aaron Gordon guarding him. So I'm going to ask you that question, SJ. Are you any scared at all that, one, I think PJ Washington will be fine on Cat, but they're going to try to hunt other guys. Are you afraid of what that could potentially lead to or no?
Honestly, the only person in at least the starting lineup, if we're thinking starting lineups, the only person in the starting lineup that I'm, I guess, worried about on Cat is Kyrie. Just because 6'2".
You're gonna let him switch onto that because you haven't played like a second big yet. You played against two teams that have small forwards playing the four in the first round.
That's where not having Maxey, I think, is really gonna hurt us. Because that double big look. Usually we just slide Maxey in at the 4. With either Lively Gafford. Maxey can guard Cat. I feel like big body, all that. So you feel comfortable with that. You feel comfortable with PJ, but no Maxey is going to hurt. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that's not gonna factor into the series. However, in that starting lineup, I'm fine if Derek Jones gets switched on to him. That's it is what it is. Derek is light, but still has the length, all that. Especially if Cat is settling for fades, I'll take that. I again fine with PJ, fine with any of the bigs. I'm fine with Luka on him. Honestly, post defense is probably Luka's strength. Not to say he's going to lock up Cat, but you're not moving Luka.
So
easily.
And that's really what Cat does well. Is like Cat is gonna muscle in and like get buckets. Like he has no problem just like throwing people around. But I do agree. I do think Luka will.
He gets a bad. His whistle can be very weird sometimes. Cat.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's awful. Yeah. He's officiated in a totally different way.
No, I mean, I feel like that's most bigs too, because they're so much bigger, so contact isn't as, I guess, visible. Like if they're not bouncing off someone, it's not as visible. But I mean, with that, I'm just with Cat. I've had my, I guess, opinion of Cat is really he's a guy that I've kind of settled on. He has to show me, and this postseason he's been, showing me with his play. And I mean, this is another series. He very well could have a big series. I just need to see it from Cat. I need to see him do it again, basically, like do it again. Dominate the series because he's probably the X factor for the Wolves. Honestly, given if he can make PJ a mismatch, then we're done. Like if he's like if PJ can't do anything with him, I don't think we because Maxey's not coming back until maybe game 3, and that's even maybe. So I think we're dead in the water if he allows if he takes PJ out of his defensive matchup.
I think the only way that happens is if Cat's really catching the ball like by the block. If he's starting out in the mid post or further, PJ's going to be fine. From everything I've seen in this playoffs, I think so. It's just so funny when you're talking about Luka and post defense. So many similarities to the way people talk about Harden.
It's Harden, yeah. I mean, Mavs fans don't like the comparison, but I'm like, it's there. Like, there's differences. Like, of course, they're not the same exact player.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't ignore the similarities. You just can't.
I don't know why I can tolerate Luka so much more, which is gonna obviously piss off a lot of my fans. But I don't really care. Like Harden's been here for like 1 year. Like, just give me a break, dude. But I don't know. I don't know what it is about Luka. I can stand watching him play more, even though he can annoy me with his complaining. Let me ask you this, SJ. How do you feel about you talked about Kyrie getting aggressive, but how do you overall feel you can handle this Wolves defense? I mean, because they made the Denver Nuggets offense look like mediocre.
I actually honestly also even have a follow-up because I'm seeing all over the web that like the Mavericks feel like they have the same level of defense as the Wolves. And I'm sorry, but that actually feels low-key wild.
I mean, I haven't seen a tweet saying they have the same level, but what I've seen is, I mean, people think the Mavs defense is still fake at the end of the day. And I think what's happening is Mavs fans are pushing back on that because it's like, okay, we had this, sample size after the trade deadline. You guys said that wasn't enough. Fine. We go into the playoffs, go through 2 rounds, and we faced pretty good offenses, and we held them to like significantly below their, average. So I just think it's more so fans kind of pushing back and trying to say like, hey, no, we're good as well. Like kind of like it's not like we're horrible. So I just think that's probably where the disconnect is coming from.
I think anybody that's saying that Dallas's defense is fake at this point, which every Clipper fan was saying before the series. I mean, if you're watching the games, because like I haven't missed one game, it's very not fake. And I think I was saying this on all my recaps. Your guys' teams are the best at like the scrambling and rotating and closing out onto the perimeter has like been wild. Like the Oklahoma City Thunder were second guessing so many shots. And I've seen that from the Wolves all season because their length and athleticism is just crazy. But Dallas, even the way they collapse the paint, like the way Derek Jones can go from guarding like the weak side corner to be in and out the rim in like a split second is kind of insane. I wanted to ask about, do you have anything about how you can, what's going to be the key for you to find easy baskets? Is it just going to be Luka and Kyrie have to create a bunch of advantages by themselves?
Pretty much. The coaching staff can get creative. Depending on the matchup. So depending on like who's on PJ for the Wolves, something that the coaching staff likes to do is like run, post up plays for PJ. So I'm guessing Conley's probably gonna guard Derek Jones Jr. If that's my guess. Yeah.
I wrote it out before we went on, and that's what I thought.
Yeah, so we can get creative there where we try to exploit that. Obviously, Derek, he's not a shot creator, so we're not gonna run post up plays for him or anything like that. But I think you can scheme around that, scheme actions to get, Conley into action, get Derek Jones Jr. easy baskets. But I think Luka and Kyrie both have to be incredible shot makers. Because even I don't like referencing the regular season games because our team is just so different. It really doesn't you can't really take much from it. But in that one game that we did win, it was because Luka and Kyrie were just amazing shot creators. Where Luka, they both
went off for like almost 40.
Yeah, they both were just really insane. And historically, Jaden McDaniels has been a really good Luka defender. And in that one game, he just Jaden couldn't do anything with Luka, which was a little surprising. That game was really surprising to me in real time to watch, just because again I've watched this for years. Jaden's been in the league a couple years. Luka's been in the league a couple years, consistently for years. I think Luka's his lowest career averages in the regular season is against the Timberwolves. Actually, efficiency wise, is horrible. I think he's maybe at 19 a game. It's really been bad consistently against the Wolves. And that one game, it was just kind of the defense didn't matter. So it really just has to, Kyrie and Luka, they kind of have to come out in this your defense doesn't matter kind of mode in terms of breaking down the defenders, because if they are breaking down, Ant or J-Mac, then the Timberwolves might think about sending more help, and that's where we can create some advantages.
Anna, what did you think about Ant saying straight up, I'm guarding Kyrie? He's done such a great job in the postseason so far defensively. Do you have any fear of this Dallas Maverick offense really, I don't know, being more effective than Denver potentially? Because it feels like most people are picking the Wolves to win this series because you guys beat the champs. I'm picking you to win this series. It's not even me disliking Dallas or anything like that. I just think my eye test tells me that the Minnesota Timberwolves have been the best basketball team this season. So let me ask you how you feel about those comments by Ann. And I don't know, you can go on about any comments made by Ann because the guy is not afraid to speak, but he backs up his talk, which we all love as basketball fans.
I'm not super pressed on Ant saying he's wants to guard Kyrie. I mean, we saw what he did with KD, Ant. Ant, when he is guarding a big name guy, he is focused, and on ball defense from Anthony Edwards on a superstar is I think Ant can literally be like one of the best defenders on the team and maybe the best defender on the team when he is focused. I think that when he loses focus, that's when you see him kind of like getting burned on the back door, or like he just kind of like finds himself like floating around. And I think that's like maybe more it, but yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards, I think he's always kind of been a playoff riser. And I think this season it was going to be really interesting, or this is something I feel like we talked about, Angie and I on our podcast, but I was really curious to see kind of what Ant would do now that he is such a superstar, such a rising star. He's getting doubled all the time. Like, how does that change his abilities on the floor? And I think we've seen that he's only kind of gotten better. So that's crazy, right? Like, and he's so young. I mean, his ceiling is kind of limitless. And I think in terms of just like defense though, for the Pups, like Jaden McDaniels is actually one of the people I'm maybe a little bit concerned about, because when Jaden's guarding on the ball, like Jaden gets in foul trouble, or can, and he also gets like a really terrible whistle. So, if he gets played off the floor because he's in foul trouble, like that, I think could be a real challenge for us. But I actually think Jaden, Naz Reid, those two could really be X factors for us. Like, if Jaden continues to score 20 points a game, it's like,
Yeah. I know. And then the most amazing part is, even when you have a McDaniels in foul trouble, you can bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
yeah,
Like,
he's literally his twin. Yeah.
Right. That's one thing that the Nuggets struggled with. Last season, when KCP got in foul trouble, they had Bruce Brown. This year, they didn't have that, and it really showed. Let me ask you this, SJ. There's been a lot of talk about Gobert. He's been just a name that is so – I mean, I hate the Utah Jazz, so, like, we've had our run-ins. But I have to say, Gobert – surrounded by these elite defenders that Minnesota has really shown how impactful he could be. He's had two very good series. Obviously, against the Jazz 2 years ago, it was an extremely different situation. They had no perimeter defenders. Donovan Mitchell didn't want to be there anymore, and you guys had some success against him. How do you feel about that whole conversation, SJ? The Gobert and drop coverage. Luka can kill drop coverage, but they obviously have such great point of attack defenders. Do you think there's any scenario where you guys make Rudy look kind of suspect out there? Or do you think the defensive personnel for them is just too good this time around?
I mean, it depends. Granted, I mean, one thing about Rudy this whole postseason, I've been one of his, like, even when he was getting smoked by in that game 5, and everyone was just, oh my god, the defensive player of the year. Like, I was actually one of the I guess defenders saying, like, okay, stop acting like morons, guys. Like, this is the best offensive player in the league. Like, if you're gonna say offense is more important and more valuable than defense, the best offensive player cooking the best defensive player, that should like make sense. Like, just conceptually.
Habits is the beginning of time.
Yeah, like conceptually, just the whole discourse is just kind of ridiculous to me. However, I mean, Luka does not. I don't think it's like personal hate, but Luka, when he sees Gobert, it's like he doesn't. It's like there's something there. Like, he, he's trying to
wants
seek
to
him
cook
out.
him.
Yeah, wants to cook him kind of situation.
What's up with players on other teams despising Gobert so much?
I mean, this is fucking guts.
They do. I don't know what it is. I mean, this might be international beef though, because Gobert and his team, France, had eliminated Luka from the Olympics a few years ago.
That's something.
Yeah, so I don't know what all what's there in terms of what's motivating Luka against Gobert. However, I don't know. Like I said, Timberwolves, if they're playing the drop, and if they're not switching that, I think Luka just has to play as opposed to trying to hunt that mismatch, because I feel like that can get tricky in the sense that we can bog down our offense trying to do that. Like hunting the mismatch, all that. So I hope that's not a focus, trying to, like, quote unquote, play Gobert off the floor. Especially given that I think if Gobert's on the floor, I think we guard them better. Like, in the sense that, he's a non-shooter. Right. Our offense is really predicated on, not closing out, but we're giving up kind of 3 sometimes in an effort to protect the rim a lot. So if Gobert is hanging around the rim, it kind of makes it easier for us in terms of our rotations. So I hope they don't get, too caught up with the whole let's play Gobert off the floor and let's, do that, because I think it can bog down our offense if he does that. Like, I've seen it way too many times with Zubac. Granted, he would cook that switch in the past, but I remember one particular matchup. I think we even talked about this a little bit, but Ty Lue made Zubac the primary defender in one of the matchups. He's like, you're gonna hunt the switch anyway, so he was like, how about we just give it to you like off rip and let you shoot every single shot and not get anybody else involved. And that's kind of what happened. Luka was hunting it every single shot and it bogged down our offense. I think we lost the game. So like, yeah, I just hope they're not concerned too much with that.
That's a good point, because you guys had to play against a team with a pick and pop 5 with Gobert on the court. It's not going to be like that. And I've already mentioned, your rotations are so good. But yeah, you did concede a lot of open threes to the Thunder. So the Wolves' open 3-point shooting is going to be really interesting to see. So one of my last questions is, guys, the big rotation. I think that the Mavericks and the Wolves have the best big rotation in the NBA, or in the West for sure. As far as the Wolves, to me, the best in the NBA. Naz Reid, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Gobert. Dallas, your Mavs fans have been saying it for months, and now everyone's gotten to see it in real time. Gafford and Lively, especially Derek. It was so funny when we talked about last year about that pick and what it ended up being, and now look at this. I mean, contribute. It's very rare that you have a rookie that's contributing to like a championship contending team. Because yeah, we talk about this in Clipperland. Everyone's like, well, we need the young guys to play, and I always say, like, our young guys on the Clippers, they're not ready to be in a rotation like a Lively. If you want to develop those guys, we're gonna have to blow it up and just let them run. And we're going to, go through pain and stuff, but they're going to grow. With Lively, he can come in and go right in there. How big do you guys think the bench is going to be in this series in terms of, like, which bench out plays what? Let's go with Anna first, because you got the 6th man of the year. You can even talk about the whole Naz Reid thing. Is it really true? Like, is this a whole phenomenon? How crazy is this thing? The tattoos and –
Okay, here's the deal. I just saw a gal got Naz Reid tattooed on her lip.
Oh, man,
crazy. Like, no, so people are nuts. Love the passion, love that he's just like the little tattoo guy getting all these tats out in the world. And yeah, love that. People love Nas though, and there's like all like Nas Reid signs. I have his face in my front yard on a little sign. So yeah, people are obsessed with Nas Reid. I think that our bench is just like one of our biggest just luxuries, honestly. Naz Reid, yeah, 6-man. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think, is somebody that, and I saw somebody in the comments that asked this, but like, who do you think might be like one of the most, like, I don't know, like, who are people maybe gonna like dislike the most at the end of the series or something like that? But I actually kind of feel like that could be like Nickeil Alexander-Walker potentially. He can get hot from 3 and hit just the most timely buckets in any game. It was like last game he was kind of ice cold, but that's normally not the case for him. He's really pretty consistent for us. I think I'd love to see what Kyle Anderson can do in this series. Actually, he has been horrible like as of late. Maybe not horrible, but he's just been really in a slump lately, which has been a bummer, and I'm like a Kyle Anderson apologist. So
that's my guy. He went to UCLA, and he's actually my favorite UCLA player like I ever got the pleasure of watching. Slow-mo. He's
no,
but yeah, he's been missing.
He's been missing. He's been in a tough place, but again, slow-mo apologist, I'm here for it. I wanted us to keep him after the trade deadline. I did not want to get rid of him, and a lot of people in Wolves community did. But yeah, I think he could be really effective in this series too. So we'll see. I feel like our bench is great though. I mean, I want to say it was game 7 with the Nuggets. I think that we had 7 people scoring in double digits versus the Nuggets 2. So okay.
Yeah, you have depth. I mean, that's
maybe it was 7. Let me look. I think it was though.
That is definitely something. How about your USJ? You got Derek Lively's been the standout, but other than that, you've got Exum, who he's struggled to score. Kind of similarly how Kyle Anderson, he's not making his open shots. Josh Green, he's had some solid moments in the postseason with his offensive rebounding and timely threes. What do you think about how your bench can impact the series? And then you can even talk about Lively too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I said on I released a pod episode on Sunday. I had said I would start Lively, just because he's just been so much more impactful than Gafford. And I felt like after the deadline, I mean, I said it. I was wrong at the time, but I thought that benching Lively specifically was a little scapegoatish. When we went through that little 5-game slump after the deadline. Uh, but Gafford came in, we started winning, so it kind of was just like whatever. And now we're seeing in the postseason, Lively is still better than him at the end of the day. Like, all love to Gafford, but he's more of a, like, you see him more in that bench big kind of giving energy role. I doubt they'll do that. Though I think they'll still start Gafford, which is okay.
Yeah.
However, Exum, I'm not sure what the future holds for him in the postseason, given that he lost his spot to Jaden Hardy. They tried with him. They gave him minutes, then they, gradually cut it down when he was doing nothing. And I mean nothing. It hurts my heart because he was so good for us during the season, and I thought for sure, like, I knew, like, the shooting, I didn't think he was a real shooter. Like, he shot the 50%, but I knew that was, like, quote unquote fake, because the volume was so low and he was always open, and it's a set shot. Like, so I was like, okay, in the postseason, guys are gonna, or teams are gonna test the shot, but it's more than that. Like, he hasn't been able to do anything at all. So because he has no confidence, and he's a confidence type player. I'm noticing that about the Aussies. They're really confidence is really important for them. Like, if they lose the confidence, they become unplayable. So with Exxon, I'm not sure how much run he's going to get. I mean, depending on how things go for us defensively, if we're really struggling, I could see us, inserting him and giving him a look. But right now, Hardy has control over those minutes, and Hardy gives us a different dynamic than, I guess, an Exum, where he gives us much more of an offensive punch. And different from, like, Tim. Tim is another name. He was actually in the 6th man of the year conversations, early favorite to win it early in the year, and then he was just so bad to end the season, to the point where he was just so bad. One of the worst players I've ever watched with my own 2 eyes. That's how bad he was. Yeah, it hurts my heart to say that, because I love
And that's
Tim,
actually
bro.
like low-key kind of wild, because well, Tim, yeah, he actually has cooked the Wolves a couple of times. But the last, like, I would say, like, the last, like, 2 weeks of the season it's thundering. The last, like, couple of weeks of the season for the Mavs, like, the schedule was not hard.
Yeah, no, we had one of the easier schedules post like All-Star break. It wasn't like
Post-All-Star,
too,
yeah.
it wasn't too difficult. But I mean, Tim was in a slump from before the deadline, and we kind of assume, like, Tim does this all the time. Like, he'll be hot for like a month or so, then gets cold, but it kind of balances out. We're waiting for, like, the other shoe to drop. Like, it's just been months of bad play. He's had like one good
Which
game
is,
this
What was
entire
that
didn't
game?
he also
Like,
have, like,
game
the
2?
second most played
Yeah.
minutes on the team
That's what I
in the
thought. I
regular
thought it was
season?
fatigue. Yeah, I thought it was fatigue. But he's had rest. He's had rest too, and the shots are getting worse. Like, the misses are getting worse every time he plays. But whatever. So he's another wild card. I feel like we have more wild cards on the bench than the Timberwolves do, in the sense that it could really go, like, either or with some of these guys. Like Josh Green, he's another surprise in that I didn't think he was going to get postseason run like he has, only because he was also so bad to end the season. And I have my issues with him. I mean, he's an energy guy. He is what he is. But I think his defensive reputation is kind of crazy, given that he cannot get around the screen at all. A lot of his defense is on pure energy, and the best thing he can do defensively is in isolation, where he can cut off drives. Like, you're not blowing past him. Like, he will cut you off, kind of thing, because he has really quick feet. But if you call for a screen, you're taking him out the play. He cannot get around them at all, and it messes with our defense, which is why we had to bench him after the All-Star break. But I mean, with that being said, he was still really good in the postseason, finding other ways to impact the game with, like you said, the offensive rebounding. He hit really timely shots, and just he also gives us a different look where a lot in that Thunder series we started having him pretty much bring the ball up the court, as opposed to kind of, given that Thunder was deploying a lot of on-ball pressure, like in the backcourt. So we let Josh bring it up. Of course, you're not going to really pressure Josh. So he brings us different, and he's, along with Lively's, probably our most dependable two off the bench right now. So our bench has a lot of wild cards, but we do have different, I guess, different looks to throw off our bench. Like if we need more defense with our guard, you're probably gonna go Exum Green. If you need more offense, you're probably gonna go Hardy, Green. Tim is there too. Like I'm really hoping we could get Maxi back sooner or later. Like I said, game 3 is probably the earliest we could see him. But he would have, bolstered things. But I mean, I think these two teams, one thing that's kind of apparent is the fact that depth is not that overrated in the playoffs. You hear it all the time, like, oh, depth's overrated. You just need 6 or 7 guys and you're okay. But the more we, get deep into things, you're seeing that a lot of these teams are deep. Like I think all the teams left are pretty deep. The Pacers probably pretty deep, or I was gonna say probably have the best like bench in the league, along with the Wolves are pretty deep. I think the Mavs were pretty okay depth wise. I think the Celtics are pretty okay depth wise. I think a lot was made of their depth, but their bench knows how to play with each other, and they've got a ton of reps since basically more than 70% of their games were at garbage time. So they got like a lot of reps. So depth is not overrated is my point here.
Yeah. My last question for you guys from me. Anna, what will lose you the series?
Oh, that's a good question. Hero ball. Like if I really trust and believe like our coaches have truly some of like, they are just, I mean, they're just geniuses. Like I feel like, especially like against the Nuggets, like, I think that they're drawing up the right game plan. I think it's just our ability to execute on that. And usually what we see that can be really difficult is just like when we stop passing the ball and things get really sticky, things start to fall apart for us. Defense for us certainly creates offense, and that's huge. So and ideally, obviously making shots. I feel like a lot of teams feel like this, and but I feel like there are just nights where the pups just go ice cold, and like we saw that in a couple of the games against the Nuggets too. Like it was just, I mean, even the first half of game 7. So yeah,
knocking down open shots, not getting too stagnant. What about you, SJ? What will lose you this series?
If Naz Reid plays like the best player of all time, like he does against the Mavs,
he loves to cook you guys.
Oh my goodness, yes, and that's why I'm so upset about Maxi not being here, because at the very least, like we can have a body to match up with him. But I just feel like that could be a problem if he's like really on. Like he really just does not miss shots against us. It's actually quite ridiculous. I mean, he's a really good player. Like he's a good player. He's gonna have nights, but the rate at which he hits shots, like all his career highs are against us. It's really ridiculous. So I think
2 words, Naz Reid.
Yeah, Naz Reid. So I think that is definitely something I'm looking at, that matchup. And I mean, with us as well hitting shots, these are 2 very defensive teams. I think at the end of the day, whoever wins the series, it's going to be predicated on the fact that they guarded the best. Like they guarded the other team's offense the best. Yep. So I think it's really offense is going to be the thing here.
Yeah,
and the real winners really are just NBA fans. Like that's like the winner of this series. Like this is such a cool series, I think it's really fun. Going to be really fun basketball.
As Anna said, I mean, the Wolves, their defense is amazing, but if they're able to score and get their defense set, that's the big thing for me with Minnesota, because beating their set defense is extremely tough. The last questions are going to come from the comments that people asked. Wolves After Dark asks, who is a player on each team that the other might be underestimating? You want to take that one first, Anna?
Yeah, this is actually the question I was talking about earlier. I think it could be Jaden. I think it could be NAW. I think it could be Kat. I don't know. I feel like it could go a few different ways for us. So I don't know.
Anybody on your side, SJ? You think the Mavs fans I would say the fans. I don't think the players are going to underestimate anybody at this point, or coaching staff. The fans.
I think probably our bigs, Lively. I think, the consensus now is that our bigs are going to get destroyed, eaten up. Like, oh, y'all saw like Chet, and you didn't see any. Basically the discourse is that the bigs didn't really see any real competition, any real bigs, and that now faced with Gobert, Cat, all these people. They're just gonna get eaten alive. So I think I think they hold their own better than people will give or are giving them credit for.
I didn't watch, admittedly, enough of like the OKC Mavs. I just cannot stand OKC, so I just couldn't do it. It's
Wow.
like burning my little eyes.
What's that all
But
about?
I just am like over them. I don't know. I just am over it. I don't know.
I feel like that beef grew this season. I saw a lot of fighting this season between Wolves
lot
and
of
OKC
beef.
fans.
Yeah. I think it's because like we were both like, it felt like these two like smaller market teams like on the come up, and we hated that. But I don't know. This is such a casual take, but I truly hate watching Shea get a whistle that I've never seen before. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but you can't breathe on the guy without him getting a whistle, like a foul call, which is just so frustrating. Like, that's actually what I was like most pressed on if we were to match up with OKC, is like I would have just been so frustrated to our defense. There's simply no way we could have gotten in any type of rhythm. But I don't think that that's going to be the case against the Mavs. Like, I think that both of us are pretty physical teams, and I think that plays well for both of our defenses. The games I did watch, I was impressed with Gafford though. So I think that he's something to watch.
Yeah, regular season whistle is definitely different, but we'll see after the series how you
Not
feel.
for Shea. It didn't
Not for
seem.
I will tell you that he still got
No
his
way.
whistle.
Hell
He
no.
still
I was
got
like,
his
is this
whistle.
playoff basketball? Yeah, I was shook. No way.
Let's see how you feel about Luka by the end of the series. I don't think he's gotten as good of a whistle as SGA, but you just never know. All right, guys. Last question I have: series prediction. Also, okay, we got one more from a Mavs fan. He says, "Do you think Luka can get who's Daniels?"
I think he meant
McDaniels.
McDaniels. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about that. Yeah, we did talk about that, and I think that Jaden on ball defenses can be a recipe for
which is why I was surprised on my pod. I actually thought that, I mean, logical thing putting Jaden on Luka, but I thought they would have put, I know it's a little risky put Ant on Luka, given that Luka's the engine, you don't want to tire out Ant. But I thought, yeah, with the foul trouble, to preserve Jaden, you guys might have, because Kyrie, his game, he's not getting calls like that. He's not manipulating the whistle, so Jaden could have a easier time with Kyrie. But I mean, we'll see.
That's, I think, the best part too, like about the Wolves defense is actually like that we could put Ant, Jaden, NAW on Luka, on Kyrie, and be very effective. So I think that, I don't know, TBD.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, I'm stressed.
Series prediction? I'm not, thank God.
I'm not going first.
You know what's funny? I did not make a prediction on my pod. Only because when I get to this point, I'm like, I'm riding my team anyway. Like, even if I do not believe, like a couple years ago against the Warriors, I knew we weren't beating them. I knew we weren't beating them, but I could not like root against my team. So I mean, same thing here. I'm gonna go. I mean, I would say Mavericks in seven as like the safe option, but I'm gonna go Mavs in six.
Yeah. Well, every series has been. It's funny that you guys have had the same pattern in both series: lose the first game, win the second and third, and then lose fourth, win the last two. I'm gonna go with the Wolves in 6 games. Man, I really want to give the Dallas the benefit of getting that third win and having a game 7 for the conference finals, but I feel like I have a tendency to pick series going 7 too much. And it's really game 7s are just much more rare than we realize, I feel like. So since they beat the Denver Nuggets in 7, I'm going to go with 6 for Dallas. But so Minnesota, I'm taking the first ever finals appearance, which is going to actually kill me to see the Timberwolves make the finals before us. It's going to break my soul, but you won't break it. Anyway, Anna.
Okay, Beyonce. I am going to go Wolves in 4 till it ain't.
What? Really?
Yeah, till it's not, and then it's Wolves in 5 till it's not, then Wolves in 6 till it's not.
I really wish I had that optimism still about anything of my teams, but maybe one day it'll return.
I mean, I feel like for the conference finals, that's fine. Like once your team gets there, you're kind of, you gotta rock with them.
Well, this is
guys. We just watched the Wolves sweep the Suns. They just beat the Nuggets. I'm like, On cloud 17 million.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Yeah, this is the ride.
No
of Wolves.
shame. I don't care.
This is the ride of Wolves fans' life. So I mean, I have to acknowledge that, and it's going to be exciting. Crowd has been great, both arenas. Let the people know where they can find you guys. This was awesome. I actually enjoyed it a lot, much more in the East. Even though I love my Eastern Conference guys, this series was just so much more interesting.
You can find me on Twitter, I guess, at Anna E. Knudsen, and you can follow my podcast, The Boy Lynx.
Yes, and you can follow me on Twitter at SJBasketball8, and you can also check out my podcast with my co-host 21 going on 77.
Oh yeah, and follow my co-host Angie, and at Angie Nyquist, and she is the Nosread Cat Gal. So if that means anything to you, do what you want with that.
Appreciate you guys. Everybody, let me know your prediction for the series in the comments, and make sure you give these ladies a follow on their respective platforms. Appreciate it. We'll be live after every single game. Appreciate you, King Charles. Need to do more shows. Enjoy the love and content. Appreciate you for tuning in. Thanks, guys. And I think we'll be live tonight after Celtics and Pacers. So I'll be there breaking that one down. Peace, and have a good one. Let's just hope for some good basketball.